Tide is high, slack. Water's soft. Good day for a paddle. Had a kind of a tragic situation last night. There are a lot of street dogs here, in our area. And we have a couple of them that kind of gravitate towards us, towards our compound. And 3 or 4 other compounds nearby. So we all kind of take turns in feeding the dogs and bathing the dogs and looking out after them. But none of the dogs is wholly owned by any one family, because they're street dogs. Well, there's a pair of them, Annie and Tony. Those are those white ones that you've seen in some of my other videos. Tony's the big one, the big white one, and Annie is his little playmate. She's about half his size, and she got struck last night by a kid on a moped, and it killed her. So everybody's pretty upset today. We ran out to try to help last night, and the kid must have hit her with sufficient force to have killed her instantly, because she was totally unresponsive when I got there, and she had just been hit. So I think it probably killed her on impact. And the kid felt terrible about it. It was dark, and they really don't have street lights out there. Half the mopeds don't even have headlamps that work. Of course, the kids didn't have any helmets on or anything. They got pretty banged up. There were 2 of them on the scooter, and they got hurt. But Annie got killed. So that was kind of a sad deal. Oh, the neighbor lady was she was just beside herself. She was really upset. And of course the girls were upset. Everybody was upset because they all love those dogs, Tony and Annie were kind of fixtures in the neighborhood, and now Tony is all by himself. You could tell he was all upset. He saw Annie get hit, and he went and he barked and barked and barked, and she wouldn't move. And then he got scared and ran away. So Anya went and found him, and we got him out of the road and took him over to the girls' house, our sisters. Anya has 3 sisters that live on the same compound with us, so we had Tony stay with them last night. And we're going to try to keep him occupied today, I guess. But that's unfortunate. It's a sad situation. Sad. Happens a lot in Thailand. Anytime where there's lots of dogs on the loose and lots of people hauling ass on their scooters and stuff. At least the kids didn't get any more hurt than they did. It was just, they were pretty scraped up. And the witnesses to the event said that the kids weren't speeding or anything. Annie just ran right out in front of them, and they didn't have time to react or anything because it was dark. She'd been hit before. That's why she had that funny walk. When she was little, she got hit by a car. So I guess if there is one positive, at least she didn't have to suffer. Because I'm pretty sure it was instantaneous when she got struck. It killed her right then. But it's sad. What are these guys doing? We'd like to get a dog at some point. I've always had bird dogs back in the States. But we didn't want to get a... It's different here. You can't... In our... Let me pause this for a second. Lab or a golden retriever. Some sort of a retrieving dog. Because then I could build a little platform out behind the seawall where I could go and throw, the tennis ball or throw one of those floating dummies for the dog. And when the tide was slack, you could come out and the dog could do fetches and stuff in the water and have a good time. And the compound yard that we have is big. It's big enough for... God, Pim had 3 dogs in her part of the compound. We have room for at least 2 in ours. And now we've got none. We were apprehensive of bringing a dog into the fold while there was still the possibility of me and Anya going back and forth. Oh, kingfisher right there. Going back and forth to the States. Here comes the kingfisher. He really wants to land on this boat. Yeah, because we didn't think it would be fair to have a dog that was pretty green as far as learning commands and learning manners, and then to have us be gone for 6 months at a shot. That wouldn't be a good way to train a dog. It wouldn't be fair to the dog because we'd be gone a lot. Yuck. And it wouldn't be fair. Yeah, you got to be around for a dog. You got to be there to train it. You got to be there to reinforce the good behavior and when it does good, you got to be there to reinforce that. When it does bad, you got to be there to reinforce that that's not acceptable. Otherwise, you end up with a full-grown dog that's totally out of control. So that's why we haven't had a dog. But ultimately, I would like to have at least one bird dog, like a golden retriever or a Labrador retriever, and probably a working dog, something like a shepherd. I always figured we'd just find suitable candidates from the street dogs, and just take a street dog in. because there's certainly plenty of those. No sense buying a dog when there's plenty of good dogs out there that you can just grab. But I think it would be really cool to have a platform out behind the seawall, kind of not like that big, not as big as that one, but just one that where you could easily get to the water and where the dog could get in and out of the water on his own if he fell in. I think that would be great. Be a lot of fun. And it would be nice to have another set of eyes and ears around the place. Keep an eye on it. It's hard to beat the companionship of a dog. You know, they love you no matter what. I think they're a good and stabilizing factor for people to have a good dog. They just kind of complete people. We'll see, maybe something will come together over time. I guess if we did have a dog and if we weren't we weren't there all the time, you know, Anya's sisters are always there. She has her 3 sisters are right there on the in the compound. But in the same respect, I don't want them to feel like they're responsible for the upkeep of another dog. You know, because you got to clean up after them, and you got to do this and that, and give them medicine and feed them, and they get into shit, make messes. They sure are fun. Yeah, if we could have some sort of a floating type of raft dog, I think would be the way to do it. I'm not sure what the story is with this thing over here. I think initially it must have been a berth for they have a factory over here. But there's nothing over there really anymore. They built it a long time ago. And it remains to this day, doing nothing, just sticking out there. It's super shallow over here on the edge, so I think they had to build it out that far to get to deep enough water. Yeah, I was saying in the States, you can take your dog and put him on a leash and go for a run, you know, in the countryside or wherever you want to go. But here in Thailand, there are so many street dogs, and they, you know, out in front of every building there will be a dog. But it won't be owned by the people in that building. It might just be a neighborhood dog that floats around. But some of them are quite territorial. And I would be concerned that if I had a Western dog on a leash that I was running along, it would be non-stop tangles with all of the street dogs I'd encounter along the route. It might be a dangerous proposition. So probably if we had a dog here, it would be relegated to living its life in the compound, our compound and the girls' compound, which abuts ours. So it's essentially one big compound. And it's pretty big. I mean, there's room for a dog could run around in there, and you know, there's plenty of room for a dog in there. Even a couple 3 dogs. We'd been taking Annie and Tony in. They'd been staying in the evenings with us and with Anya's sisters. But now it's just going to be Tony, I guess. It really sucks. Tough to see Tony get so upset when he knew that something was wrong with his mate. You know, it's hard to explain to a dog what's happened. Spend some extra time with him today. Make him feel like he's not alone. Not sure what else we can do. Yeah, the other morning I came out here and there were 9 tankers on anchor, and today there's only 1, 2, there's only 3 today. God damn. I feel like I'm coughing up a shag carpet. We went down to the beach. I'm trying to think of where it was. The last time we went to the beach, it might have been Samurai Yacht, which is about it's about 3 hours out of Bangkok. And some guy down there on the beach, he had a couple of big black labs, and he'd taken these coconuts, and you know, a coconut floats like a cork. So he'd taken these old coconuts, and he was throwing them way out into the surf like a football. And those Labradors would go out there and they'd find the coconuts and they'd bring them back and he'd throw it again. Boy, they were having the best time with those coconuts. I thought to myself, that looks like something I could really embrace. Yeah, when I had my dogs, I had Ginger and Alex. Those were my first dogs. And they went everywhere with me and did everything with me. They were big, they were full-size working dogs, like shepherd sized. And they were mixes. I think Alex was flat-coated retriever and chow. He had spots on his tongue. He was really birdy though. He was a great bird dog. Great hunter, great retriever. He wouldn't retrieve stuff unless I was hunting. But if it was something that I knocked out of the sky, he'd go get it and bring it back. And then Ginger was I think Ginger was Schäferhund. She was a shepherd dog with, there might have been a little bit of pit bull in her, but it was mostly shepherd. And they were both, I'd say Alex was about 80 pounds, the black one, and Ginger was about 75. Yeah, and I had them I had Ginger for 16 years, and I had Alex for about 12. Boy, he worked hard, and he loved his work. That's what he liked to do. He was a guard dog, he was a watch dog, he was a hunting dog. And then after we lost Alex, I had an opportunity to rescue a golden retriever named Caden. And Caden was he was an AKC papered golden retriever, field bred, not a show bred. He was field bred. He had the shorter hair and it was darker red, and his body was a little bit smaller than the field bred dogs, field bred Goldens. And man, that dog was a bird machine. He was a great retriever, and by the time I got him, his owners had him pretty well dialed in as far as he would even do hand commands with me, where that's where you don't even say a word, you just use your hand to signal, the stop and right and left and back, and he knew them all, and he loved to work. And we had him for 12 years, so he was 16 years old when he died, and that was just this last summer. And in the end, sorry, I'm all clogged up. In the end, we moved down to Southern Oregon, and did our restaurant down there. And my mom was about 3 miles from our house, so what we ended up doing is we would have Mom take care of him during the week, and then I'd get him on the weekends, and we'd bring him to our house on the weekends, and then during the week he'd stay at Grandma's. That way he got maximum attention. And I'll tell you, that dog lived the life of Riley. He had a swimming pool. He had Grandma Wendy and she walked him like 6 miles a day, every day. And I think that's why he stayed so healthy, is because he had that daily activity. That daily routine is really important to dogs, just like it is to people. Mom's no spring chicken. She was over 80 back then. Now she's 84, and she's still active. She still gets out and walks and does her thing, and I think that's what keeps her young and spry. It's the daily routine. But a daily routine is a lot more fun when you can share it with a friend, a furry friend. So I think if I had an opportunity to get a dog, I might strongly consider it. I don't think I'd buy a puppy. I've never had a puppy. But I would consider taking on a rescue. And I could even take one on, if I ever get to go back to the United States. I could take on a rescue there and just bring it back here. They're not terribly strict about the importing dogs into Thailand. I think I'd have to have paperwork indicating that it had had rabies vaccines and distemper vaccines. And that's it. I don't even know if I'd have to quarantine them. Might have to quarantine them for a week or two, but it's doable. It'd be a different world for a dog here, though. You can't, in the States you can take a dog out. Pause it for a second.